Okay, so this is my first video on my experience with my first day going to AA class. AA class? Okay. So I'm sure everybody's first time was a lot different. One of the ladies there told me that she was so nervous on her first day that she couldn't stop shaking, so they wouldn't let her drink coffee. But for me, it's not that I was super anxious, but it's just I was almost, I don't know how to explain it, but I was definitely overwhelmed and nauseous for sure. So the first call is confirming that there is going to be a class on that location at that time. Because then you start getting in your head, the easy part is saying, okay, yeah, I'll go. And then the next step is to figure out where it's going to be at what time. The next step is actually showing up. So making the call to confirm that it's happening. And I got off that phone. I was like, okay. It was a little nerve-wracking. And it was a little bit I was getting a little bit of a panic. Just because in my head I was like, okay, so me going means that it's a commitment at that point. You know what I mean? So it's it makes it more real. So we finally get there. And I go in. And at first it's almost like, oh, well, what if this isn't the place? But it's okay, this is the place. So the initial thing, I had a few people that came up to me and introduced themselves. I went with my partner who's super supportive. I feel I don't think that I would have been comfortable enough to go alone. So I was very glad to have him there. So it was weird because everybody was looking at him and neither of us confirmed who was gonna go or who was it for, basically. So they kept just looking at both of us while they were doing the whole meet and greet, basically. So anyways, we start, and I guess it was somebody's birthday, and thank God it happened to be a day to where it was opened to the family and friends and visitors, because usually I guess it's a closed meeting. So but they all went around, and the big question of the meeting was, what happened that made you take that step into going to AA or becoming sober? And everybody's story, it was so weird. I'd say that everybody there was at least 40 and 40 plus. Their ages ranged between 40 and up. I mean, I feel, and I'm 31, but I feel I was the youngest person there. Aside from, I think, no, actually, no, there was somebody that was 25. So I stand corrected. But the point is that the vibes was very mature, very older crowd. And so when they started their stories, I was like, okay, well, you know what I mean? I don't know how I can actually connect with whatever they're saying. But at the same time, I was just, I guess, wanting to not feel like it was just me. And to be honest, most of the stories that everybody was saying, and it's crazy because it's people that look completely normal. If outside of that meeting, if I saw them walking, going through the grocery store or whatever, I would not have guessed. You know what I mean? It's but that just shows, you know what I mean, that it's that type of disease, and that's what they were calling it, alcoholism, is just something that, you know what I mean, you can't escape it. Nobody, doesn't matter how you look or how you are or what career you have, or, it's just, yeah. So most of the stories were things that I actually resonated with, in a sense of, oh my God, I've experienced that, or oh my God, I think that way, or I get it, And so that really made me feel connected, and it made me feel I'm not the only one. And a lot of them were talking about them not wanting to admit that they're alcoholics for a long period of time in their lives. But to be honest, like understanding that I'm an alcoholic, it was something that what was harder for me to accept was not that I'm an alcoholic, but the fact that once I took the steps to get help, then that would mean I would have to let it go for real. And I guess it's like I didn't know what was going to happen or how my life was going to be if alcohol was no longer included in things like that I did, or you know what I mean, people that I hung out with. So I feel like that is the scariest part, and like actually taking that step for me, you know what I mean, because that means it's going to be like a dramatic change, and like I can easily adapt to a lot of situations, but not having control and not knowing, it's like it's always the scary part. So but all in all, everybody was, they were super nice when everybody got a chance to speak. There was literal zero judgment. Like nobody, looked at anybody crazy or judged. And I'm talking about the stories that were being told were like, holy shit. I feel like the only person that was kind of like taken aback was my partner, but in a sense of like, you know, I don't know, but it wasn't like he was judging, but it was more so of him like, holy shit. But yeah, I feel like everybody was very, very chill and very welcoming. And the last of the meeting, I feel like was a little bit super overwhelming because like when they did the chips, the lady doing the chips kept looking at me after she would name like 24 hours, 1 month, 2 months. I guess they were expecting me to like pick up a chip. And so, but I didn't because it's like my fourth day technically. So it wouldn't make sense for me to get a 24-hour one. So whenever it was done, they approached us. And when they figured out that I was the one that was going there, like it was for me, I got in touch with some of the ladies there, and everybody was like, we're getting numbers. And that was a little bit overwhelming because I just felt like, holy crap, like, you know what I mean? And thank God that I guess there's a convention. So there wasn't as many people as there usually is. And I feel like if that would have happened on my first day, I feel like for sure I would have been a little bit freaked out. But I know everybody means well. And it's always kind of exciting to feel like you're going to be able to help somebody. You know what I mean? Especially when they feel, or when you feel like you would have wanted that help, at a certain age or at a certain point in your life. So I understood that. But they were like, why didn't you get the chip, if I may ask? And I was like, oh, it's my fourth day. And they were like, oh, wow, so you already made the choice. And, and it's like the best feeling is that they're constantly reminding of like, hey, you're not alone. Call me anytime. Please do. Make sure, like one of the steps is to always keep in contact with somebody and go to meetings, if not every day, most days of the week. And she said to make sure to call at least one alcoholic a day, so that way it could become like familiar. And whenever I feel like I need somebody to speak with, if I'm getting like the urge or anything, that it will be a lot easier for me to feel comfortable enough to make that call when I do need. So all in all, honestly, I feel 9 out of 10 just because of how overwhelming I got like towards the end of it. But, I didn't feel pushed at all. And that's what's cool about it. I didn't feel like they were expecting me to do anything, or, you know what I mean? It just seems like they were, hey, like whenever you need anybody to speak with, I'm here. So it feels good to not be the only one for sure. That's a given. But it feels even better to know that people have been in the same position and they've made it. And look how far they've come. And it's also a reminder of you are only human. So it's like, be kind to yourself for sure. So that's all.